We're here to talk about Pretty Cure Max Heart Maji Fight Day in Janai. That I just pulled that name from the website I bought this game from, which is Japan Retro Direct. So I actually don't know what that means. Maji Fight Day. I can't process Japanese right now. This is a game based off the Pretty Cure series, which, if you don't know, I know basically nothing about Pretty Cure beyond it exists, and it's very old at this point. I think this is part of the first original series of Pretty Cure, though, from what I know. I think these characters are just the earliest ones I saw and have stuck around in more of the anniversary kind of content. I feel like when I do see Pretty Cure kind of come up. But this is basically a pretty simple game overall. It's a really nice aesthetic and a surprising level of polish in some ways, although it is janky in the way that I think a lot of kind of like games for kids that are more action-oriented games often end up being. So, but one thing that's kind of cool is this game has some weird elements that kind of make it feel a little unique compared to other kind of platformers I've played and things like that. So this is basically a 2D action platformer. For the most part, you know, you have a pretty normal jump. You also have the ability to do like wall kicks and things like that, so you can bounce off walls. And you have like a, you have like a 3-hit attack combo. There's not a lot going on here. It's usually just like a series of floating platforms. And most enemies just kind of like walk into your attacks and things like that. So I think as long as you're kind of generally taking your time, this is a pretty easy game to get through. So it's more of, I think, an aesthetic piece more than anything, where like if you like the look of this game, if you like the cutesy feel of it, I think it's appealing for that reason on its own. The levels themselves are pretty simple as well. There's just not a lot going on here. There are occasionally some like spikes pits and some puzzles, like in the case of what's on screen right now. It's like a beach ball you kind of roll around. And there's also a lot of just like corridors or vertical corridors that you can kind of like wall jump up. So there's just not a lot going on here, but if you are into just like very standard platformers, I think you'll be right at home here. And I think it's also just a very easy game overall. So it makes the game just like pretty quick to get through. I think pretty chill to get through rather. I think one thing that it adds a nice little wrinkle to this game is that there are hidden treasures everywhere. So when you are playing through the levels, you do really need to be observant to try to find these different treasures, which basically include furniture, which we'll get back to here in a little bit. So if you do want to 100% the game, usually for kids games like this, I think 100%ing them is often worth it because you're looking at a game that's probably about like 2 to 3 hours on its own, and then 100%ing it might take another like 20-30 minutes kind of thing. But, you know, take your time with it. You know, I think just kind of enjoy it as you want. There's 4 worlds with like kind of unique looks to them. There's like a jungle world, an aquatic park that includes a swimming section and things like that. And while there are 3 different characters in the game, they all control exactly the same. So, or as far as I can tell, they all control exactly the same. But there are some additional things that are beyond just the aesthetics of this game and also beyond it just being kind of like a decent playing platformer. I think there are some little fun, weird elements in this game. One of them being the jump kick in the game. So when you jump and kick in this game, you kind of get this weird, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like a rocket kind of kick, where you kind of like shoot forward and you kind of push into enemies and it hits them multiple times. So it's a way you can kind of like burn through enemies pretty quick. The only problem is that often like the enemy collision doesn't play nice sometimes. So you sometimes end up in the enemies and then taking damage yourself. But this wall jump kick can be used not only in combat, but also, or not wall jump kick, sorry, the dive kick in the air can be used not only in combat, but also to traverse the world. So while the platforming is largely pretty simple overall, you can use this kind of like this aerial kick to kind of like skip different parts of the levels and things like that if you want to try to challenge yourself. I don't know if you're like a speedrunner, maybe you want to try to task and things like that. So there's like a little bit of opportunity here for that kind of thing. There's also the ability to do kicks off wall jumps. So when you do a wall jump, you'll also kick. And when you do that, in a way that probably isn't really intended, you're able to gain height and things like that. So it's just kind of like these weird little things here and there. And on screen right now, actually, there's like this water segment here, which is probably one of the more unique parts of the game where you actually swim around. It's actually a weird long turning animation, which I think kind of makes it funner to play because you have to kind of like plan for the turning animation before you attack enemies and things like that. So it's a game that just like, I think has enough little wrinkles to make it slightly memorable, but I would not say it's anything that you're going to be like, oh my god, this is the missing hidden gem of the world that I've been looking for. So when you go through the levels and stuff, you'll find furniture, and part of the thing with getting furniture is there is a bedroom scene that you can kind of go to in the menu. And in this bedroom, they're initially empty, but you start filling them up with furniture as you find furniture in the levels. There's little markers so you can tell like if you found the furniture in the level and if you got all of them. But what this little scene is for, beyond just your own aesthetic interest of just being like, oh, it's a little character, like, you know, in this little bedroom, and like it's an isometric view, so it looks different than the rest of the game kind of thing, is there's also a hide and seek game in here. Now, this hide and seek game, I would say, is not particularly fun. I tried to figure out if there's like a way you can play hide and seek in a way that like made sense doing this. Like maybe there's like little sounds you could hear playing or anything like that, or maybe there's like little rumblings in the background that you can see, or that maybe the object shake at all. There's none of that here, as far as I can tell. And I went and looked at multiple wikis about it just to get an idea in both Japanese and English, and it seems like everybody is in agreement that the hide and seek sections are completely random until you lose 3 times, and then it does a little small animation before they reveal the room, kind of giving you a small hint of where to look. There is a star system here where if you find objects sooner, you'll get a higher rating and things like that. But because it is more or less random, and when I say 3 times, I don't mean 3 choices. I mean you have like multiple choices to find a object, and then if you fail those multiple choices, that counts as 1. So you have to do that 3 times over, and then you get the hint. So just very slow paced and just in general not very rewarding as far as I can tell. And I didn't see any other responses. I think I saw somebody commenting on a forum about how there was no rewards. I went through all of them. I didn't get the max score on all of them. Some of them I got just 2 or 1 star. But nothing seemed to unlock through doing it. So the furniture, I think, getting the furniture is more fun in the sense of actually exploring the levels and, using it as a way to justify you kind of replaying levels and just exploring every nook and cranny of the level kind of thing. So, aesthetically, I think it's like a really super cute game. And I think if you are into just kind of like cutesy platformers that play like your more normal platformers, I think it's appealing in that way. If you're someone that's probably more like me, who are looking for, I think, more unique concepts in these kind of games aimed at kids, where you're looking for something that plays very differently from what a standard video game is, I think this game, and similar to like the Barbie and the Three Musketeer games on the Wii that we've talked about before, I think this game has a similar issue of just like, it just plays a little bit too much like other video games. And to some people, that is what makes it desirable. I think I had to pay $20 for this one. So it's a bit more pricey than most GBA games I import. And I don't know what the price is today, but that's what I paid at the time. Versus a lot of the games that are more in the like kind of like Imagine Makeup series or something like that, right? Where it's a more unique experience to that type of audience. This game just kind of has more crossover, I think, with a typical set of more normal people who might appreciate 2D platforms, things like that. So I think that drives the price up a little bit. But so I don't think this game's gonna really stick with me all that much. But like I said, there's enough quirks here that I think it's worth playing. And again, it's only like 2 to 3 hours long. So if you want to sit down and just enjoy yourself, some pretty pure platform.